the user want to work done by the computer system, then users are responsible for giving the commands to the operating system. Once the execution is over, after that what I want to do? I want to delete that process. If the user want to interact with the hardware, how the user is going to interact with the hardware? Through the operating system. Hello to all, a warm welcome to my new session on software concept. I'm Revati, faculty, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Pre-University College, Temple of Excellence, Mysuru. In my previous session of this chapter, I discussed the following topic, that is language translator. So what is language translator? Why we require language translator? Because if I consider computer system, computers are able to understand only machine level language. But if I consider computer language, I'm having different kinds of programming language. Now I need to convert the programming language into machine understandable form. For that reason, I required language translator. Then in that, we are having three different types of language translators. That is nothing but assembler, compiler, and interpreter. So what is the job of assembler here? It's going to convert the assembly level language program into machine understandable form. And if I consider compiler, what is the job of compiler here? It's going to compile or convert high level programming language into object code. So here object codes are nothing but machine codes. And what is interpreter? It's going to interpret one line at a time. That means it's going to convert high level programming language into machine code, but one line at a time. Then we had discussion regarding linker and loader. So what is linker here? Linker means what? I need to link the files. So here the linkers are used to link subprograms in order to form one single program. Then what is the job of loader? So the name itself here indicates that load the program. So where to load the program? The main aim of the loader is to load all the programs to the main memory of the computer system. Then we had discussion regarding utility software. So what is utility software? To maintain the computer system properly. That means the computer want to function properly. For that reason, I required some utility software. And these are the topics I discussed in my previous session of this chapter. But in my today's session, I'm going to deal with what is operating system and what is the need of operating system and what are the functions of operating system. Along with that, we are going to study the types of operating system. So instead of wasting much of time here, directly moving on to the topic, that is operating system. So what is operating system here? It's nothing but this set of programs or set of instructions. So dear student, just remember one thing here, that the computers are able to understand only machine language. And if I want to done any work from the computer system, then I want to give the commands or instruction to the computer system. So here an operating system is nothing but a set of programs, or it is nothing but a group of programs which act as an interface between the user and computer system. So what is operating system here? Here operating systems are the set of instruction or set of programs, and it is act like interface between user and computer system, or it's going to act like gateway between the user and computer system. So here operating system is an interface or gateway between user and computer system. That means if the user want to work done by the computer system, then users are responsible for giving the commands to the operating system. So it acts like a interface or mediator between user and computer system. That means whatever the instruction the user want to convey to the computer system, that can be achieved with the help of operating system, and it's also called OS. So what is OS here? It stands for operating system. The main functionality or job of the operating system is to start up the computer system. Suppose if I want to start my computer system, then what I required here? I required the operating system. Along with that, it's going to perform all its operations. So these are the job of operating system. So dear student, just remember one thing here, that I'm having new laptop, but I'm not installed any operating system to that laptop. Now tell me, is it possible to interact with the computer system without operating system? No. Suppose if I want to interact with the computer system, then I required operating system. Then what is the job of operating system? It is responsible for start up the computer system, along with that control its operation. Along with that, operating system manages the resource. So what is resource here? If I consider computer terminology, here resources are nothing but the CPU or memory devices, or it is nothing but the output devices as well as input device. So all these things together called resource. So what is resource? That is nothing but CPU along with that input devices as well as output devices. And the another job of operating system is to resolve conflict. So what is resolve conflict here? When two or more process request same resource, then there occurs conflict. Then whose the job is to resolve the conflict? That is none other than operating system, and tries to optimize the performance. That means allocating all the resources properly or avoiding conflict. These are the jobs of operating system. By doing this kind of jobs, it's possible to optimize the performance of the system. Moving on to the user communicates with the computer through operating system commands and program instruction. Think that I'm the user and I want to communicate with the computer system. Now tell me how I'm going to communicate with the computer system. That is through operating system commands as well as program instruction. That means if I want to communicate with the computer system, or if I want to done any work by the computer system, then I'm going to use the commands as well as program instruction. So here operating system plays very important role in loading programs. So what is loading program here? Dear student, we know that all the programs are stored in our secondary memory, because the size of the primary memory is very less and it is very limited. For that reason, what we are going to do? We are going to store all the programs in our secondary memory. And if I want to execute that program, so what I want to do here? I want to get the program which is stored in the secondary memory to main memory. And that is loading programs from disk to memory and displaying the message. Along with that, translating programs and in outputting the result. So what are the job of operating system here? That is loading the program to the computer memory, along with that displaying the message, translating the programs, along with that outputting the result. These are the very important jobs of operating system. So here the operating system is the best example or one type of system software. So here the some of the examples for operating systems are Linux operating system, Unix operating system. Along with that, we are having DOS, that is Microsoft Desktop Operating System. Along with that, Microsoft Windows. In that, I'm having different flavors, that is Windows 95, 97, 98, Windows 2000, Windows XP, etc. Along with that, I'm having Android operating system and Mac OS. So here this figure illustrates the overall operations of operating system. So what is operating system? It's nothing but this set of program or group of program, and it acts like a gateway or mediator between user and computer system. So here I'm having user 1, user 2, user n, that means n number of users, and the operating system are the example for system software. And if the system software want to interact with the computer hardware like CPU, memory and input-output devices, who is the mediator here? That is nothing but the operating system. And if I consider application software, and here application software requires once again computer resources like CPU, RAM, input and output devices. Now tell me who is the mediator once again? That is nothing but operating system. So here operating system act like a mediator or interface between user as well as computer system. Moving further, we are having the functions of operating system. Till now we studied what is operating system and what are the functions of operating system. Once again, here I'm going to discuss the functions of operating system in detail. So here operating systems are capable to manage memory, capable to manage process, capable to manage device as well as files. Along with that, it's going to provide the protection and security. Along with that, it is going to provide user interface or command line prompt or command interpreter. So what are the functions of operating system here? That is memory management, process management, device management, file management, protection and security, along with that user interface. So dear student, just make a note here from the examination point of view. This is very important topic. So here, what is memory management? So the name itself indicates that I required operating system to manage the memory properly. So if I consider the example here, I'm going to declare array, that is single dimension or one dimensional array. Now if I write a of 5, then 5 and what is the size of int? it is 2 bytes, that is 5 into 2, total 10 bytes of memories are reserved for this array A. Now, this is the memory allocation. Think that 5 blocks are reserved for this array A. Now, who is responsible for allocating the memory for this array A? That is nothing but the operating system. So, the main job of operating system is to allocate the memory. That means when the user requests any memory, then the job of the operating system is to allocate the memory. Now, the second function of operating system is to free the memory. So, what is free? So, here free the memory is nothing but the release the memory. So, once I done with my work, then what I want to do? I want to release the memory space. For example, if I consider this example, I requested I want 10 byte of memory for this A. Now I done with my work. Now I want to free this memory. If I free this memory, the same memory is utilized by some other program. Now tell me whose job is to free this memory? Once again, it is nothing but the computer system. And the next function of computer system here is reallocate memory to a program when a program block is freed. After freeing this memory, the job of the operating system is to reallocate the memory. Think that I removed this memory. That means whatever the memory I requested, it is allotted. After the completion of my program, I'm going to free this memory. Once the memory is freed, then the job of the operating system is to reallocate the memory to other program. And last one, keep track of memory usage. So what is keep track of memory usage here? That means how many memories are used by the program, how many memory spaces are available for other programs. These informations are carried out by the operating system. So what is the main job of operating system here? That is nothing but the memory management. Under that, allocating memory, deallocating, dereference or free the memory and reallocate the memory and keep track of memory usage. These are the functions of operating system. Moving further, I'm going to have the second function of operating system. So what is the second function here? That is nothing but process management. So dear student, now tell me what is process here. So what is process? The process is nothing but program in a execution. For example, think that I'm going to create a program that is P1.C++. And when I start executing this one, and it is called process. So what is process here? Program in execution or program in running is called process. Then what are the activities of process management here? That is control access to shared resources like file, memory and CPU. If I consider resources like file, memory, input-output devices as well as CPU, these are the resources and these are the example for shared resource. So what is shared resource? That means two or more programs can able to access these resources simultaneously, because these are the example for shared resources. And the controlling access to these kind of shared resources are carried out by the process management. Then we are having control execution of the application. So what is control execution of the application here? That means controlling the operations of the application. Then creating, executing and deleting process. So here the job of the operating system is to create the process or is to create the program and execute the program and delete the program. That means once the execution is over, after that what I want to do? I want to delete that process. Then cancel or resume a process. So what is cancel here? That is cancelling of execution of the program and resume. These are the functions of process management. Along with that, it's also responsible for schedule a process. So here scheduling process, that means the two or more process can able to execute concurrently. Now I want to switch from one process to another. That can be achieved by using schedule a process. And it's also responsible for synchronization. So what is synchronization? To execute two or more processes parallelly. We must require the synchronization between the process that can be achieved by using synchronization and communication and deadlock for process. Anyway, dear student, we are in first PUC, so it is very difficult to understand deadlock concept. Anyway, these are the jobs of process management. So creating process, executing process, deleting process, controlling all these shared resources, along with that scheduling the process as well as cancel or resume a process. These are the functions of process management. Then moving further, we are having device management. So what is device? So here devices are nothing but input and output device. And who is responsible for controlling all these devices? Once again, it is nothing but operating system. So the main job of operating system is to device management and opening the device or closing the device or write device driver. These are the functions of device management. That means when user requests any input device, who is responsible for allocating the input device to the user, that is none other than operating system. Once all the activities are done, now tell me who's going to close the connection? That is nothing but the operating system. And who is responsible for writing device drivers? That is none other than operating system. Along with that, to establish communication between input as well as output device, controlling the operations, along with that monitor the device drivers. These are the activities of device management. So what is device here? That is nothing but the input device as well as output device. To manage all those things, I required some software. That is nothing but the operating system. And these are the jobs of operating system. Then moving further, I'm having file management. So what is file here? There is nothing but the stream of bytes. So the main job of operating system here is to file management. That means creating a file, deleting a file, creating a directory, along with that providing access to the file. So what is file here? That is nothing but stream of bytes or stream of character, and where I'm going to store all these files under the directory. So at the beginning, I'm going to have the directory. Under that, I'm going to have the file. So I'm going to store all my files under the directory. Now tell me whose job is to create the directory, manage the directory, create the file, manage the file, So here the job of the operating system is to create a directory, delete a directory or manage a directory. Along with that, create a file, delete a file, etc. Now it provides access to file. Suppose if I want to access any content which is stored in my file, then once again I required operating system. That means here operating system provides the access to the file. Along with that, allocating space for file. So what is allocate space here? That is nothing but memory allocation. For example, think that I'm going to create a file and I required 2 MB memory location. Now tell me whose responsibility to provide memory allocation for this file. There's none other than operating system. So allocate space for file. Along with that, keep backup of a file. That means once the file is created, I want to take the backup of that file. Now tell me whose responsibility to take the backup of that file. That is nothing but the operating system. Along with that, provide the security for that file. These are the very important functions of operating system. So what is the function of operating system here? That is file management. Under file, creating file, deleting file, managing file, controlling file, creating directory, managing directory, providing access to the file, allocate memory to that file, along with that keep track of that file, along with that provide security for that file. These are the functions of operating system. Let's see the next function of operating system, that is nothing but protection and security. Now tell me, dear student, to whom we need to provide the security or protection. So here operating systems are responsible for providing protection as well as security to the all the data, all the files, all the directories and all its resources. So OS protects the resources of system. That means here operating systems are responsible for protecting all the resources which is connected to your computer system. So user authentication, only the authorized or authenticated user can able to use all the resources belongs to the computer system. File attributes like read, write and execute. So when I consider any file, for that I can able to create three kind of user, that is user, group and owner. So here owner is going to have all the authorization, that is read, write and execution. And if I consider user can have only read and execute. And if I consider group, group can have only read, access. So these are the file attributes, and who is going to provide these file attributes? That is nothing but the operating system. Along with that, encryption and backup. So what is encryption here? To provide security to my data, I'm going to encrypt the data. So what is encryption here? It is nothing but the secure way of writing the data. Along with that, backup of data. Dear student, now tell me why I required backup of data. If I consider computer system, all these are machines as well as electronic devices, and I cannot able to trust all these devices and I need to protect my data. For that reason, I'm going to keep the backup of the data. These are the some of the functions of operating system. So user authentication. if I consider my Gmail account, I won't share my credential with anyone because I need to protect my account. So these are the some of the example for the functions of operating system. Now moving on to the next topic, that is user interface or command interpreter. So I need to provide the interface between the user and computer system. How I'm going to provide the interface? That is, OS provides an interface between the user and computer hardware. Suppose if the user want to interact with the hardware, how the user is going to interact with the hardware? Through the operating system. So here, for that, the operating system is going to provide user interface. So the user interface is a set of commands or programs or a graphical user interface. If I consider user interface, I'm having two type of user interface, that is GUI and command line or command prompt. If I consider command prompt, I'm going to give the commands to the operating system, and user want to remember all the commands. And if I consider graphical user interface, I'm having icons, menus, etc. So the best and easy way to provide the user interface is through graphical user interface, so that the user can able to interact with the application as well as the computer hardware, and these are the functions of operating system. Now tell me, what are the functions of operating system? That is memory management, process management, device management, file management, along with that security and protection, and last one is user interface or command line interface. Moving further, I'm going to have the type of an operating system. So what are the different type of operating system we are having, and how these operating systems are classified, and based on which parameters we are going to have the types of operating system? Based on these parameters, we are having different types of operating system. In that first one, we are having single user operating system, batch operating system, multi-programming operating system. In that, once again, I'm going to have four subgroups, that is multitasking operating system, multi-user operating system, real-time or online or multi-user operating system. Along with that, I'm going to have real-time operating system. Along with that, I'm going to have the distributed operating system and network operating system and multi-threaded operating system. But dear student, just note here that in my today's session, I'm going to discuss only first two type of operating system, and rest of the operating systems are I'm going to explain in my next session. So here, directly moving on to the first type of operating system, that is single user operating system. So what is single user operating system? So here the name itself indicates that the operating systems are used by the single user. Think that I'm the user and I am one person and I can able to use the operating system. In that situation, it is called single user operating system. So this operating system allows only one user to share the system resources, including CPU. So here I am the user and I am alone. I'm going to use the operating system and I'm going to use all the resources that is nothing but CPU input device as well as output device. So here only one user can able to share the system resources including CPU time. So there are mainly the operating system configured for the use of desktop PC or laptop. Dear student, you're having laptop and you're having computer system, and whatever the operating system you're having for your computer system, that is the example for single operating system. So the single operating system comes with the computers like PC, that is desktop computer, as well as laptop, and the example for those kind of operating systems are desktop operating system and Windows 95, Windows 98, Apple Macintosh, etc. are the example. So what are the example for single user operating system? That is DOS, that is nothing but desktop operating system, Windows 95, Windows 98, etc. And what is single user? Only one user can able to use or share the computer resource. Moving further, I'm going to have the second type of operating system, that is batch operating system. So what is this batch operating system? What is the need of this batch operating system? So the name itself indicates that it's going to use batch operating system. So what is this batch? Just imagine that in my class, I'm going to have the strength 60 and I need to conduct lab practicals. So what I will do, instead of taking all 60 members together to the lab, what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide that number. I'm going to make a batch. So what I will do, I'll make 20 members, 3 batches, and I'm going to conduct practicals batch wise. That means first batch, first practical, second batch, second practical, third batch, third practical, or first batch, first practical, second batch, first practical, third batch, first practical. So here what is batch? Batch is defined as a group of jobs. So here what is batch? Here batch is nothing but the group of jobs with similar needs and similar resource requirement. Dear student, I'm considering another example here. In my class, I'm having 60 members, and now I'm going to make a group based on their interest. That means some students are very much interested in music, some students are very much interested in sports, and some students are very much interested in games. Based on these things, I'm going to make a batch. So here what is batch? Here batch is defined as a group of jobs with similar needs and similar resource requirement, and the operating system that allows user to create batch. So here operating system allows the user to create the batch and execute the batch sequentially. That means execute first batch, after the completion of first batch, execute next batch, processing all the jobs of batches, considering them as a single process, is called batch operating system. So what is batch operating system here? I'm going to group the jobs based on similar need and similar requirement and similar resource requirement, and I'm going to execute all these batches one after another. That is nothing but sequentially. So here the batch operating system, it does not allows little or no interaction between user and executing program. That means it does not provide any interaction between user as well as executing programs. That means once I initialize the job or initialize the batch, then there is no interaction between the job as well as user. The best example I can able to consider here is printer. Okay, think that I want to take 100 pages printout. Now what I will do, I'm going to give the print command. Once I give the print command, it start printing. So it's going to continuously print the paper or print the document. So there is no interaction between the printing head or printer with the user. So here there is no interaction between user as well as executing programs. And this is well suited for applications with large computation time. So the batch operating systems are mainly used for the situation that the program or the work that requires large computational time and there is no user interaction. The best example here I can able to consider printer. So it's mainly used in the fields like payroll, forecasting, that is weather forecasting, and statistical analysis are the example for batch operating system. Suppose if I consider payroll system, then there is no interaction between the user as well as executing program. And the payroll system requires larger computation time. So this is the best example for batch operating system. And if I consider this example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have the different jobs, and that is given to the operating system based on the jobs. That means the job which requires similar resource, I'm going to make a batch and that is given to the CPU. So in order to share the resources and in order to save the time, I'm going to use batch operating system. Then what are the advantages of batch operating system? That's nothing but it's going to function based on the FIFO. So what is FIFO here? That is nothing but first in, first out. The best example I can able to consider bank queue. Okay, think that I want to draw some amount. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to stand in the queue. That means the first person standing at the first is going to get the first chance, the second person next chance. Similarly, if I consider batch operating system, it is going to use first in, first out. Then what's the disadvantage here? There is no interaction between user and executing program. That means if there is any mistake or if there is any error is going to happen, then it's very difficult to manage. So no interactive mode of execution, and it is not suitable for offline debugging. These are the disadvantages of batch operating system. And the example here is IBM system, that is 360 operating system. Along with that, we are going to have desktop operating system. In that, I'm having .bat file. So these are the example for batch operating system. So dear student, in my today's session, I started with what is operating system. Then we learned the functionalities of operating system. Along with that, the types of operating system. In my next session, I'm going to cover the following topics. In that, I'm going to explain multi-programming operating system, distributed operating system, along with that network operating system, multi-threaded operating system, along with that I'm going to explain functional features of operating system. That is nothing but command user interface as well as graphical user interface. So dear student, I hope that in my today's session you got more information about the operating system and the functionalities of operating system. Let's meet in the next session with some more information about operating system. Until then, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.